The 2017 movie The Ritual features four men going on a trip in memory of their dead friend and finding themselves roped into a mysterious ritual with them as the sacrifice to Jotun, a child of Loki. You want to know more about how to survive in The Ritual? Keep watching this video for more tips and tricks, and let's begin. First up, take stock of the situation. First and foremost, it's a good idea to be clear about what you're working with. The Ritual is a movie where four friends go hiking on King's Trail in Sweden and end up getting caught in a supernatural ritual in a forest. There, they encounter the god of mischief, Loki's child Jotun, who wants one of them to be a worshipper and the rest as a sacrifice. Things started to go downhill when one of the friends gets their knee injured and decides to get off the trail and cut through a forest to cover the area quicker. They have no reception, so they can't call for help, but they want to take a shortcut so Dom doesn't injure his knee further. They do, however, have a lot of equipment that would help in their survival. Instead of a shortcut, the forest ends up being the long way through, as they find themselves encountering the elements along with strange engravings on trees and the corpse of an elk impaled on a branch. And then, night falls, and the friends end up in the rain, having to take shelter in an abandoned cabin where their worries start. Over the course of the film, two of the friends are murdered after encountering hallucinations and another strange phenomenon, while another is taken by a village of strange, long-living worshippers as a sacrifice. In the end, only Luke is left as a chosen worshipper, and he barely escapes with his life. Next, remember your surroundings. The first trouble the group encounters is Dom's injury, which is the entire reason that they had to take a shortcut. While they had a lot of equipment, they had no reception, and hence assume they cannot call for help. But what else? If you were in the same position, one can only assume that you would have the same equipment. Keeping in mind that the movie takes place sometime in September, the friends' itinerary includes tents, rain, hiking gear, water bottles, knives, and at least one lighter, since Luke is seen smoking. Even if you don't smoke, a Swiss Army knife and a lighter are standard things you should take with you while camping. Other than that, the group is also on a cooking stove, something that you would do well to bring unless you know how to start a fire with essentially nothing. They also, of course, have flashlights to light their way in the dark, and a map, and a compass. So, using these things, how would you survive the ritual? As mentioned, the first thing you do is remember your surroundings. Keep in mind the direction the compass is facing, and if you do end up entering the forest, it's sort of obvious that the best way to survive is to not enter the forest in the first place. But, since we're talking about a hypothetical situation, we'll assume you entered the forest. So, keep that compass handy. Now that we have our equipment and situation in mind, we'll see how we can make the most use of it. And the first, most obvious thing to do is try calling someone. In the movie, the friends mention that there'd be no use in trying to call anyone since there's no reception. But King's Trail has a service where if you call their emergency number at 1122, it'll work even if there are no signals. Another measure you can take is satellite phones. Since the lack of reception means you can't take any sort of GPS system with you and you have to rely on maps, it is a good idea to have a satellite phone handy. Satellite phones don't need telephone signals to work, although they're pretty expensive, making the solution slightly impractical. One of the mistakes the characters make, you should absolutely avoid, is a lack of maps. Granted, they're going on a very well-known trail and they're supposed to be signals, but they still should have been more prepared. This mistake is the lack of a more detailed map. The one they carry shows a bold line signifying the trail, but absolutely nothing for the forest. Obviously, it's better to be safe than sorry. If you want to survive the wild, try to take a good map with you. It'll help you mark the Jotun sightings, where you saw shelter, and the village of worshippers. Next, exit the forest. If you can mark out all the important things, your next step becomes obvious. You need a way out. This is one of the faults of the character design in the movie, as the friends don't once try to exit the forest. Remember when I told you to keep that compass handy? Yeah, well, this is where it becomes useful. Even if you don't know how to properly read one, if you remember where the needle was when you entered the forest, you can start moving in the opposite direction, and you're bound to find the exit eventually. Calculating how long it's been since you entered, you can estimate how long it would take to get back to the trail. And if you have an aforementioned detailed map, even better. Then you can also check the direction which would be the shortest route. Not to mention, if you somehow get stuck in the forest for a longer time and end up having to face the villagers, you can use the map to mark their houses and avoid them till you get out. But all this relies on the assumption that you're able to avoid the Jotun. According to what was seen in the movie, the obscure creature only seems to attack at night. One fun fact is that if you're able to enter the forest somewhere around June, you might have less trouble with the creature, as the sun does not set at all during that period. Another is to go from cabin to cabin. Nevertheless, the biggest hurdle seems to be how to spend the nights. Assuming that you don't get caught by the villagers, you need a way to avoid this godlike entity. And since that's where most of the problem lies, you would need to find a secure place to sleep at night when the creature attacks. One proposed way to do so is to travel from cabin to cabin. For the first night the group spends in the forest, they find an abandoned cabin. And while their problems start there, they end up having hallucinations, and the creature doesn't seem to be able to enter the enclosed space. So the most obvious course of action is to go from cabin to cabin until you find the exit to the forest. If speed is the issue, then you can make use of the shelter to recover your energy. A map would again be very useful here, as if you have have no maps and only a compass, you would need to remember the direction you came from, at the very least, to make it out alive. But even if you do find a cabin and you can remember the routes, the Jotun seems to have the ability to control people in their sleep to some extent, as one character finds himself outside upon waking up. To counter this, make use of your equipment to tie yourself down before going to sleep. This will ensure you won't be able to step outside in your sleep. Or start a forest fire, or call on Thor. If you can't avoid the worshippers, you'd need a weapon to keep them at bay. And this is where the army and cooking knives come into play. In a desperate situation, you could even use the rods to set up tents as a long-ranged weapon. Some fans have suggested starting a fire to keep the villagers away and separate them from yourselves, if you know where they live. But that comes with its own risks, even if you can manage it, as you are just as likely to get caught up in it due to forest fire's unpredictability and rapidness. The Jotun is a mythical creature from Norse mythology, which also happens to be where Thor is from. If one exists, then the other must as well. Calling on Thor seems to be done by asking him for a favor and offering a less sinister sacrifice. Even if it doesn't work, it's worth a try, since the villagers are blessed with extremely long lifespans for worshipping the Jotun, confirming that there is something supernatural at play. Last but not least, try to climb trees. It's a last-ditch effort idea, as the Jotun is shown to have the strength to take down trees from the bottom, but if it can't reach you, there's a chance. Also, try to avoid the villagers as best as possible. The Jotun might be avoided during the day, but that rule don't apply to humans. And that's a wrap for this video. Do you think you'd be able to survive the ritual? Let us know in the comments section below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!